Linda leaned forward from the couch in the sitting room, her voice low, yet somehow carrying farther than shouting. "Adrian, you can't really believe your wife makes that kind of money fixing cars." My husband didn't answer right away. The look in his eyes showed he was shocked by what his mother had just said about his wife, but he restrained himself, like he was trying to keep the peace. "I'm not stupid," she continued. "Women like Emily don't suddenly start bringing home real money from a garage." Adrian opened his mouth, ready to challenge his mother, then paused. So she continued. "She's seeing other men, Adrian." Camille laughed softly beside her. "Mama." "Think about it," Linda said, folding her arms with a tight smile. "New truck, nice house, expensive school for Kim, and what does she do all day?" Her lip curled. "She crawls under cars." She hesitated, then dropped the bombshell. "A woman like that doesn't earn money like that honestly." My husband still hadn't said anything. He looked too disappointed to even try explaining. So Linda leaned closer to him and whispered, full of contempt, "You may be too blinded by love to see it, Adrian, but your wife is embarrassing this family." I stood in the hallway holding my cardigan, listening to the woman whose house I had secretly been paying the property taxes on for the last 5 years, and in that moment I realized something very clearly. For 10 years, I had been breaking my back to help people who believed the only way a woman like me could succeed was by sleeping with someone richer than them. And that was the exact moment I decided I was done carrying my husband's family on my shoulders. But before I tell you the rest of what happened, if you're already hooked, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. All right, let's begin. My name is Emily. I'm 34 years old, and I'm a master automotive technician and co-owner of a repair shop in Charlotte, North Carolina. I have one daughter, Kim, who is 7 now. I drive a used truck that I maintain myself, I keep a tight budget, and I've never needed a room to be noticed. I learned from watching my mom juggle 3 jobs that dignity isn't something other people give you. You carry it yourself, or you don't have it. That lesson lives in my bones. I met my husband, Adrian, when I was 19. He was funny and kind, and he looked at me like I was someone special. His family was from Atlanta, Southern, traditional, tightly knit. I was excited to be part of something like that. I came from a small family. I wanted roots. His mother is Linda. His stepfather is Roy. His younger sister is Camille. From the first Sunday dinner, I felt it. Not anything loud or dramatic, just the temperature. The way Linda smiled at me, but her eyes didn't. The way she turned away just slightly when I spoke. The way Camille looked at my hands across the table, rough, nails cut short, and then looked at her own, manicured and soft, and smiled to herself. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself I just needed time. I did not imagine it. By our 2nd year together, the pattern was established. At every family gathering, birthdays, Thanksgiving, 4th of July cookouts, I was the one who got up to refill the drinks. Not because anyone asked politely, because Linda would just look at me and say, "Emily, be a dear," and then go right back to talking, like I was staff. If I said something in conversation, about work, about a news story, about anything, Linda would wait a beat and then speak over me as if I hadn't made a sound. Camille was the same. Roy would at least nod, occasionally, but he never pushed back on any of it. Adrian tried. In the early years, he'd say something. "Mom, let Emily finish," or "Camille, that's not fair." But I told him to stop. I said, "Don't. I don't want to be the reason for conflict in your family." Looking back, I wonder if that was my first mistake, letting it go on so long that it became the wallpaper of our family life, just part of the room, normal. Then came the comments about my job. When Adrian and I first got together, I was just a tech at a local shop, but over the years I built my skills, got certified, and eventually I and a business partner opened our own place, Elevate Auto. We specialize in European vehicles, BMW, Mercedes, Audi. The clientele is professional, and our rates reflect that. By the time I was 27, I was bringing home just over $190,000 a year. My business partner and I split profits. I paid myself a solid salary, and I had built a portfolio of small investments that were quietly growing. Adrian was a high school football coach and personal trainer. He made around $62,000. He was proud of what he did, and he should have been. But the gap between our incomes was real, and we'd agreed, without drama, that I would cover the larger household expenses, the mortgage, the insurance, Kim's school. His family did not know any of this. To them, I was the strange girl with dirty fingernails who had somehow married into their family. Linda once said to a cousin within earshot of me, Adrian could have done better, someone more put together. Camille once laughed at a cookout and said, Emily, don't you ever want to do something more dignified? Like you spend your whole day under a car. Doesn't that feel beneath you? Beneath me. I smiled. I handed her a plate of food I had brought. I went back to the cooler and got someone else a drink. But I heard every word. I filed every one away. What none of them knew, what I had never once mentioned, because Adrian asked me to let him handle family matters, and I respected that, was that for 5 years I had been quietly covering their parents' property taxes. It started when Roy had a slow year in his landscaping business. They were 3 months behind on property taxes for their home in Decatur. The county had sent notices. Adrian came to me, ashamed, asking if we could help. I said yes without blinking. I set up a payment arrangement and handled it. I told Adrian it was between us. That was year 4 of our marriage. I kept paying it. Year after year, I just quietly renewed the arrangement, rolled it into our accounts, never mentioned it at a single dinner, not once. When Camille's car broke down, twice, I had the car towed to our shop, diagnosed the problem, fixed it myself, and covered the parts. I told Adrian to tell her it was a favor from a friend at the shop. He felt bad lying. I told him it wasn't lying, it was protecting her pride. He didn't quite see it the way I did.
And every summer, for 6 of our 10 years together, the whole family took a vacation. Lake houses, beach rentals in Florida, a trip to Myrtle Beach that Linda planned down to the last detail, right down to which restaurant to eat at on night 2. She'd present these plans with fanfare and energy, and everyone would clap and be grateful and say what a wonderful mother she was for putting it all together. I paid for them. Every rental, booked through a shared account that I managed. Adrian would mention it to me in private. Is this okay? Can we do this? And I would say yes, and the money would come out of our account, and no one at the table ever thought to ask how it got paid. I want to be clear about something, because I know what you might be thinking. I didn't do those things to hold power over anyone. I did them because they were Adrian's family, and I loved my husband, and I wanted his family to be okay. I wanted peace. I wanted belonging. I just never got it in return. By year 9, I'd made my peace with it, or told myself I had. Then Roy got sick. It started as fatigue, then shortness of breath, then a diagnosis that came down like a hammer, a serious cardiac condition. He needed surgery, significant surgery, followed by a rehabilitation stay that the family was told could stretch 2 to 3 months. The out-of-pocket costs, even with insurance, were going to be substantial, the kind of number that makes a family go quiet around a table. Linda called a family meeting. This is important. She called it as if she were the queen of something. Everyone gathered at her house on a Sunday in March. I made a dish and brought it, set it on the table like I always did, poured drinks, sat at the edge of the room. Linda presented the situation. The insurance covered most of the surgery, but the rehabilitation facility she wanted, the good one, not the county one, was going to cost over $40,000 over the stay. Between the follow-up medications and the home adjustments Roy would need, they were looking at closer to $60,000. Everyone looked at Adrian. He's the oldest. He's the son. That's just how it is in their family. Adrian was quiet for a moment, and I watched his jaw do that thing it does when he's wrestling with something he doesn't want to say. And then he said it. I can't do it on my own. I'd have to talk to Emily. The room shifted. I felt it. Linda looked at him for a long moment, then at me, then back at him, and she said, very carefully, "Are you saying you need your wife's permission?" "I'm saying
Adrian said, "that Emily manages our finances and it's her money as much as mine, and I'm not going to make a decision like this without her." There was a silence. I sat there calmly. I told them I'd look at what was possible and we'd talk soon. I kept my face neutral. I left with Adrian and Kim, and on the drive home, Adrian reached over and held my hand. He thought the meeting had gone fine, but I had left my cardigan at the table. I realized it when we were halfway down the block. I told Adrian to keep driving. I'd run back in quickly. It was cold and I'd need it for the drive. He pulled over and I walked back to the house. The door was unlocked. I let myself in. I could hear voices from the kitchen. I wasn't sneaking. I was just getting my cardigan. But then I heard my name. "Adrian can't cover 60,000. You know that." That was Camille. "I know," Linda said, "but if Emily has money, where does she even get that kind of money? She fixes cars, Mama." "I know what she does." Linda's voice dropped, but I caught every word. "I knew it. I always knew it. A woman like that doesn't make that kind of money fixing cars. She must be seeing other men, wealthy men. That's the only explanation. She's always been too comfortable, too independent. That's not a woman who got rich changing tires, Camille. I'm telling you." Camille laughed. Not a big laugh, a quiet, agreeing laugh. "Should we say something to Adrian?" "Not yet," Linda said. "Let's see what she comes back with first." I stood in that hallway for what felt like a very long time. I am telling you, I did not feel rage in that moment. What I felt was colder than rage. It was clarity. It was the sensation of 10 years of moments, every dismissal, every eye roll, every "be a dear, Emily," suddenly locking into a single sharp image. I saw all of it at once. Everything I had given, everything they had taken and still found me lacking. I had paid for the house she was standing in right now. Not the whole house, but 5 years of the taxes that kept it in her name. I had fixed Camille's car, twice. I had paid for the beach house where Linda had laughed about me behind my back with the cousins, and she thought I was sleeping my way to money. I picked up my cardigan from the chair. I walked out, and I closed the door quietly behind me. Here is what I did not do. I did not go back inside that kitchen that night. I did not confront Linda that night. I did not call Adrian and unload it all on the drive home. I did not text Camille. I did not cry. I went home. I bathed Kim. I read her 2 chapters of her book. I tucked her in. I kissed her forehead. And then I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea, and I thought very carefully. Adrian needed to know what I heard. He deserved that. But I also needed to be smart about the order of things, because once this unraveled, it was going to unravel completely, and I needed to make sure I was standing on solid ground before the floor dropped. First thing Monday, I called my accountant. I've kept my own financial records impeccably, both personal and business. She helped me build a clear picture of everything. Every property tax payment I'd made for Roy and Linda's house. I had receipts, bank records, payment confirmations, every beach rental I'd booked, all of it documented in our shared account. Camille's car repairs were on our shop's books as internal work. I wasn't building a case for a courtroom. I was building a case for a conversation I was going to be very, very calm for. Next, I told Adrian. We sat at that same kitchen table, and I told him what I'd heard. All of it. I showed him on my face what it had done to me. Not dramatically, just honestly. His face when I told him, the way the color changed, the way his eyes went somewhere far away, I'll never forget that either. He was quiet for a long time, and then he said, "Emily, I am so sorry." I believed him. I've always believed him. Adrian is not the villain of this story. He's a good man who loved his family, and sometimes loved them to the cost of loving me enough. That's a different conversation, but he wasn't the one who called me a whore in a kitchen. We agreed, together, that he would go back to his family and tell them that I was not going to be contributing to Roy's treatment fund. He would not explain why, not yet, just that it wasn't on the table. He also agreed to something else. He agreed to let me stop. I had been quietly carrying those financial responsibilities without recognition or awareness. Adrian had known about most of them, loosely. Now I put everything on the table between us. Every payment, every year. He sat across from me and went pale, looking at the numbers. "I didn't realize how much," he started. "I know," I said. "I didn't make a big deal of it, but it's time to stop." We canceled the automatic property tax payment for Roy and Linda's house, effective at the end of the current billing cycle. I sent a note to the payment service that the account was closing. No drama. I removed my card from the family vacation planning account that Linda used to book things. Done. I did not call Camille and tell her she was on her own for her car. I just didn't answer the next time she texted Adrian asking about a noise her engine was making. He told her our shop was backed up and she should try somewhere else. And then, we waited. Not with malice, I want to be clear about that. I didn't sit at home rubbing my hands together. I went to work. I fixed cars. I picked up Kim from school. I cooked dinner. I lived my life. I just stopped quietly holding theirs up. The first sign came about 6 weeks later. The property tax bill arrived at Roy and Linda's house. The automatic payment hadn't come through. Linda called Adrian confused. He said he didn't know anything about it, because technically he didn't. I had handled all of it, and he hadn't known the full extent. She called twice more over the next 2 weeks. Adrian said he was sorry, he couldn't help right now. They had their own expenses. Meanwhile, Linda had come back around. I expected it. After Adrian returned from that first conversation about Roy's treatment, when he told them I wasn't contributing, Linda called me directly for the first time in years. Not to ask about my day, not to apologize, to feel me out. "Emily, honey, we should spend some time together, just us girls. It's been too long." I said that sounded nice and kept my schedule full for 3 weeks. Polite, warm, unavailable. 2 weeks after that, she showed up at a Sunday dinner with a smile that didn't fit her face correctly. She helped clear plates. She asked about Kim. She touched my arm twice. I let her. I smiled back. I brought dessert I'd baked. And then, over coffee, she turned to me with that practiced softness and said, "Emily, you know how much you mean to this family, truly. And with everything going on with Roy, we're all just feeling so stretched. You understand?" I nodded. "If there's any way you and Adrian could help with the treatment costs." I looked at her. Not angry, not cold. I looked at her the way you look at someone when you're about to say something that can't be unsaid and you've already decided. I set my coffee cup down. "Linda," I said, "can I ask you something?" She looked surprised. She nodded. "When you were in your kitchen, the night of the family meeting, in March, what did you say about me?" The color didn't leave her face all at once. It drained slowly like water finding a way out. "I don't know what you—" I came back for my cardigan. I heard everything. There was a silence at that table that I felt in my chest. Adrian was there. He sat still. He already knew this was coming. Linda opened her mouth. "Emily, I was upset. I was scared about Roy, and I said things I didn't." "For 10 years, I said. I kept my voice even, not loud, just steady. Since the first Sunday dinner Adrian brought me to, I've been in this family. For 10 years, I've tried. I've cooked for this family. I've gotten your drinks at every cookout. I've sat quietly while you talked over me. I've smiled at the jokes about my job. I've never once asked for recognition for the things I've done." Linda was very still. "Your property taxes," I said. "For 5 years, I've been paying them, automatically. Because when Roy had that bad year, you were close to losing the house, and Adrian came to me, and I said yes." I watched her eyes change. "The beach house in Florida, the lake rental in Tennessee, Myrtle Beach the summer before last. I booked those. I paid for those. Because Adrian asked if we could make it work, and I made it work."
Camille had gone very quiet across the table. "Your car," I said to her. I didn't raise my voice. Both times, the alternator and the transmission. That was me. I towed it. I diagnosed it. I fixed it. I covered the parts. I told Adrian to tell you it was a friend at the shop doing a favor. The friend was me. No one spoke. I didn't do those things to hold them over you. I did them because I wanted to be part of this family, because I love your son, because I wanted Roy to keep his house, and I wanted you all to have somewhere to go in the summer, and I wanted your daughter to not have to take the bus to work. I stood up, not dramatically, just calmly. I picked up Kim's backpack from the hook, turned back. The property tax payment won't be coming this year, or after. I'd make some calls to the county if I were you. The vacation account is closed. And my shop is backed up for the foreseeable future. I looked at Linda one more time. For 10 years since being introduced to your family, I've tried to please you all. Done you all nothing but good. But you've treated me like the help. Called me a whore, guised in doing a boring job. Now you'll see what it's like without me. I left. Adrian came home that night. He sat down across from me and he said, "I should have said something a long time ago. I'm sorry I let it go on." I appreciated that. I needed to hear it. But the work between Adrian and I, that was private. What happened with his family was already over. Here's what happened after. Roy's treatment costs did not get covered by a family fund. Camille pulled together some money. Adrian contributed what he could, which was real and came from sacrifice. Family friends chipped in a little. But the good rehabilitation facility, the one Linda had her heart set on, was too expensive. The property tax bill came due. Without my automatic payment, there was a balance of 14 months sitting there. They had not caught it right away. By the time it registered, there were penalties. Linda called Adrian in a panic. He expressed sympathy and said he couldn't help right now. They had their own expenses. Meanwhile, Linda had come back around. I expected it. After Adrian returned from that first conversation about Roy's treatment, when he told them I wasn't contributing, Linda called me directly for the first time in years. Not to ask about my day, not to apologize, to feel me out. "Emily, honey, we should spend some time together, just us girls. It's been too long." I said that sounded nice and kept my schedule full for 3 weeks. Polite, warm, unavailable. 2 weeks after that, she showed up at a Sunday dinner with a smile that didn't fit her face correctly. She helped clear plates. She asked about Kim. She touched my arm twice. I let her. I smiled back. I brought dessert I'd baked. And then, over coffee, she turned to me with that practiced softness and said, "Emily, you know how much you mean to this family, truly. And with everything going on with Roy, we're all just feeling so stretched. You understand?" I nodded. "If there's any way you and Adrian could help with the treatment costs." I looked at her. I looked at her the way you look at someone when you're about to say something that can't be unsaid and you've already decided. I set my coffee cup down. "Linda," I said, "can I ask you something?" She looked surprised. She nodded. "When you were in your kitchen, the night of the family meeting, in March, what did you say about me?" The color didn't leave her face all at once. It drained slowly, like water finding a way out. "I don't know what you—" I came back for my cardigan. I heard everything. There was a silence at that table that I felt in my chest. Adrian was there. He sat still. He already knew this was coming. Linda opened her mouth. "Emily, I was upset. I was scared about Roy and I said things I didn't—"